at 11.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. My first guest tonight joined President Obama and a number of other elected officials to tour some of the areas of our city that suffered the worst damage from Hurricane Sandy, including a visit with residents of Staten Island. Joining me now to discuss the president's trip and the likely debate in Congress over the $30 billion of disaster relief that Governor Cuomo is requesting from the federal government, we've got Congressman Michael Grimm, who represents Staten Island and part of southern Brooklyn. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
It's good to be here.
I heard, and we reported on some of what was going on at the height of the storm, where you reverted back to your days as a Marine, as a FBI first responder, and really got into the thick of it. But tell us, how is your home? How is your district office?
Fortunately for me, power is back on at both my home and the district office, so I have no complaints whatsoever. When I look at the devastation, even today, seeing it. Now, I was there the day of the storm and the very morning after in Newport Beach. It's still, standing there with the president today, I almost don't believe it. It's surreal. The amount of devastation is overwhelming.
Well, if I could read something into it, I thought you seemed extremely somber, extremely grim, even standing next to the president, who was there to sort of bring a word of hope and encouragement, as well as some resources. I'm wondering if you think the federal response has been adequate.
Yes, don't be confused. Was I somber? Yes, but you got to understand, just an hour before I was with the parents of those two little boys, and I can't get past that. There's a part of me, my heart's breaking for those parents and for everyone that has lost a loved one in this. Then you go to the next level and you see this is everything these people have ever owned. This is their whole life, and they're looking for me and everyone else, the president, the governor, to help them put their lives together. And I take that as a very profound responsibility. It's very, very difficult.
Did people make a mistake by staying in evacuation zones when they'd been told to clear out?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about that. And I understand it. I get it. There was some looting last time, but it's not worth your life. The bottom line is, especially if you have elderly people in your house or you have children, you have got to evacuate just to play on the safe side. And you hope that it was just an inconvenience. And you come back and say, oh, we didn't really need to leave. Like in Irene, most people didn't need to leave. And it was an inconvenience. But I'd much rather see an inconvenience than a death toll that we have right now, and especially when you hear of children, it's heart-wrenching.
Absolutely. When I hear you and Borough President Molinaro and others sort of expressing a degree of frustration, I get the sense that there's sort of a deeper sense of grievance. Not just that Staten Island's not getting what it's due, but that Staten Island often doesn't get what it's due.
Well, there's no question. I mean, we feel like the forgotten borough time and time again, and there's little things that happen, just little things like when you see the National Guard leaving right before the storm to head to Manhattan. It leaves a little part of us that say, why are they leaving us and going to Manhattan?
Did they really?
There was a big contingent. I don't know if they all did, but a big contingent. So little things like that, stick in our craw a little bit, and we feel like, look, we don't have a government hospital. We don't want a public hospital, but we also have to beg for a generator for, during Irene, we had one hospital that was open. And in this hurricane now, all the ventilated patients had to go to Richmond University Medical Center, Rumsey. But they have very antiquated equipment and old generators. If they go down to generator power, we need to have a backup, because if not, people will die, period. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. So we feel like we fight for the basic necessities sometimes, and it is frustrating.
Do you think New York is going to get the billions that Governor Cuomo is asking for?
Oh, I don't know the exact number, but there's no question. I know that he asked for $30 billion. I can't comment on what the exact number is going to be eventually, but I can tell you that myself and Chairman King will be leading this effort in the House to work with our senators to do whatever we possibly can do. Look, the federal government is going to play a limited role, but it has to have a role. And that role is to get these people back as best they can on their feet and get them started with their lives again and helping them to rebuild their lives.
You know, I'd like to ask you a little bit about what also goes on in Washington. I mean, even as you're coping with this, you've got your day job. And
no question.
In a few weeks, we're going to hit what's being described as the fiscal cliff, when severe cutbacks are going to hit on the budget side, tax increases are going to hit on the revenue side. What will that mean for New York, and how likely do you think it is that we're going to go over that cliff?
Well, I think it would be very detrimental to the local economy for New York, but I think it's going to be extremely difficult for the overall economy. Look, we're still struggling. Everyone knows that. We have a very, very fragile recovery at best. The idea of across-the-board tax cuts, plus, don't forget, you're talking about massive cuts in spending across the board with the military. A lot of those military contracts, forget whether you're pro-military, anti-military, but the amount of contracts that are pending right now are a lot of jobs. Those are American jobs that are supplying those contracts. So I think you'll have a very detrimental impact. You'll have a spike in unemployment. You'll have a depression of economic growth, which would most likely lead to a recession. So I don't think it's an option. At the same time, I do think we have to look at the long term. I really hope that what we don't do is another Band-Aid. We've been doing that for decades, and that's how we got into this problem. We need to address the issue. The bottom line is very simple. All of the spending from Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is growing at an exponential rate that's unsustainable. We have to deal with that somehow, some way, and I'm willing to listen to anyone that has an idea that will work. Whether if you don't like Paul Ryan's budget or his idea, then give us something else. I'm willing to work with anyone on this, but we have to deal with it because it is not sustainable. So for the long term, if we want a healthy country and we want to be able to have money in discretionary funds for FEMA and for disasters, then we have to deal with the mandatory spending that is overwhelming our budget right now. When you add up Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and welfare, you're at 60% of our spending. And it's growing at an astronomical rate. Bottom line, that's not sustainable. So we have to do something.
Okay. Well, we will wish you the best of luck, not only with that, but of course with getting your district back on its feet. And be sure to use us as a resource. We try to get out information whenever we can. And we're going to be following the story until it is done. Thanks a whole lot for joining us, Congressman.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break now. Still to come, we'll take a deep dive.